music is here. We're live and nothing's happening.
Hello and welcome to the duck-breaking episode of Arsenal Soup on Lee Judges TV. We're already off to a rip-roaring start with Professionalism AF. This episode,
right?
I mean, we know what we're doing. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name used to be Mike until a super ex-Arsenal footballer made the declaration a few months ago that I would forever be known as Magic Mike. So it stuck. So look, that's not just me being some egotistical prat. You just don't argue with Kevin Campbell when he calls you something. You officially change your name. Alongside me, I have my partner in crime. And by partner in crime, I actually mean that we've robbed and pillaged banks together. We've committed grand larceny. We're currently on trial for joint public urination. Hello, Tannor, a.k.a. the Bearded Gooner.
Man, oh, man. I'm glad your lawyers are on top of this stuff because I had no idea I was being charged with all of that.
You know, you don't remember that night? They told us.
I mean, there were a lot of nights, Mike. Believe there were a lot of nights, but the public urination one is I was probably a little too intoxicated for that. So
they told us not to cross the streams, but we didn't listen. So, and of course, joining us on our maiden voyage tonight are two people who need no introduction, but that's never stopped me before. The esteemed founders of Lee Judges TV. Between the two of them, they have nearly 100 years of combined Arsenal fandom, which tells you a lot about Lee, because Dan just discovered the club.
I was going to say, because Dan just came onto the scene like what, 2 years ago?
No, well, you know, but not exactly, but yeah. So it tells you a lot about Lee. But it's great to see folks from different generations, you know, coming together and starting a YouTube channel, and you know you love them, or else. Lee Judges, Dan Potts, thanks for joining us and entrusting us with this valuable hour on your channel.
No problems whatsoever. I don't know if I'm regretting it or not, but we'll see. But at this moment in time, it's a privilege to have you on. And according to Kevin, he didn't actually name you Magic Mike. He actually named you Tragic Mike, but you've actually changed it.
I had my hearing wasn't working that day, and I heard Agic, and you know that's we'll have to sort that out, because I've already gotten all my branding, all my T-shirts, all my merch. You know, I can't go back and change that. I might have to just not send stuff to people.
I mean, Tragic Mike is the adult film ripoff of the actual Magic Mike.
Yeah,
right.
Well, the adult film that doesn't end up becoming successful.
Right. Exactly.
So Dan, thanks again for having us. I like your
absolute
background
pleasure,
as always.
Man. Absolute pleasure, man, and I'm looking forward to you boys getting involved in this channel because I think it's needed. You bring some amazing experience, wealth of experience, but more importantly, some comedy as well as some serious and articulate Arsenal chat. So I'm looking forward to it, Mike and Tannor. It's going to be good.
Nice one. So yeah, we are as well. So tonight, I thought we'd kind of ease everybody into the soup. This episode is hot off the stove, but the pod is called Arsenal Soup, and we'll go into a little bit about why in a few minutes, but this is not going to be your typical Arsenal podcast, because quite frankly, there are a couple other podcasts. I don't know if you're aware of this in the Arsenal world, where you can get content about Arsenal, about tactical breakdowns, fan reactions, pretty much anywhere on Arsenal on Lee Judges TV, you're going to get great content. So we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about the love of football, the love of the Arsenal, everything that goes along with it, game day experiences, kind of the pub life before and after games, both London and across the pond and everywhere else in the world. More kind of lifestyle type programming, and have some fun with it. So we hope you'll join us every time we're on. We want this to be an interactive show, so chat, definitely pipe up and let us know what you think. And speaking of which, if you're watching, hit that like button, thumbs up button if you're enjoying it, and subscribe to Lee Judges TV if you haven't already. So Tannor, Arsenal Soup, where did that name come from? What do we?
It came from all of your failed diets. That's where it came from.
That's a good point.
Not that I'm one to be talking about failed diets. I've just never failed one because I've never tried one. No, there's a good story, and Dan, jump in here whenever because you've got some input on this as well. But the actual there used to be a show on television over here in America. I think it might actually still be on. I haven't seen it for a very long time, but it was called it's called Talk Soup, and basically it was a rip on various talk shows over here in America where they would play various clips and just make fun of people. It was basically a roast of American talk shows. And while we won't quite go down the roasting of the Arsenal YouTube shows or podcasts, although that could be very fun.
You might do a show about that.
Yeah, there's also there is also a personal element to the title of the show, and I'll turn it over to Dan and Mike to let you guys explain that because Mike used to. I'll kind of set the stage, but when Mike would go on a diet, he would always eat soup. Now I don't really understand that because if you're eating like a bisque or something like that, I mean that is just
these are the soups that I was eating. It was basically the story begins that there's so much to it. I was on this diet that was like 1,000 calories a day. And you can see why I clearly haven't stayed on that diet. But there's like, a shake in the morning, a soup in the afternoon, and then like a pudding in the evening. And not the kind of pudding that you guys have, like just like a little pudding where you add water to this chocolate stuff. And like the stuff that you have to eat when you take your teeth out, Lee.
Wow. I guess the roasting is going to start.
So my 3 p.m. meal was the soup, and it would basically just be like powder that I would heat up with water. So I had set my alarm for it, and a couple of years ago, when Arsenal came on tour to the U.S., I actually was doing media for the Gooners podcast. We were doing interviews. We were at the press conferences. And so, of course, Unai Emery is speaking in Los Angeles right before the Bayern Munich game. And I see everybody from the experienced media putting their phones up on the dais to record his comments. So, of course, I put my phone up there 2 minutes before this alarm was due to go off. And I'm like an idiot. I forgot to turn off the alarm. So, yes, I'm the guy that had to get up. Granit Xhaka is staring a mud hole in my ass, and like you're the jackass whose phone's going off saying "eat soup" on the thing. So I think we told this story to Dan because we ended up sharing calendars with my other people on the Gooners podcast, and somehow Owen, who lives in Ireland, ended up getting daily updates at 8 p.m. every day that said "eat soup," and he had no idea where that came from. And we had Dan on the show when we were talking about that, and I've never seen somebody laugh so hard in their life about soups. And every time Dan and I talk to each other, it's about soup.
It's class. It was just so random. You can't get more random than that, can you? You know what I mean? Like the story itself is. The story itself is class. The fact that you have to get up in front of everybody, and I've seen the clip, and it's just fantastic that Unai Emery's kind of like pointing at someone whose phone's this. Mike Feinberg gets up. Yep, that'll be me. Picks the phone.
I like and I have like this massive bald spot. I still tried to have hair back then, and just I'm walking up there like awful posture. I'm embarrassed. I'm like sweat is just like streaming out in like spurts from my body because I'm so nervous. Andrew Arsblog's there. So
that's the most weight you've lost. Then was that at that moment? Then not with that, wasn't it?
that was maybe the lowest point. And I'm walking up there, and I have to pull my phone up, and then skulk back to my seat. And I just about died. I wanted to die. I did not want soup. I wanted to no longer eat anything and just shrivel away and die. But so,
that would have been the best diet you could have possibly come up with.
Yeah, really. I mean, I'm still considering doing that, but so yeah, because of that, this is going to be Arsenal soup. And you know what? I'm going to start eating the soups again, and we're going to be going around the round table for our future shows and maybe having a little bit of soup.
So you're not on the diet at the moment, then?
What do you think?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
No, once it became about 3 months from when I'm coming over to London, I'm like, oh, what the hell? What's the point of dieting and then going over to London? I mean, because the amount of beer and pies and doner kebabs that are going to be eaten over there is going to set new records. So I'll go on the diet after I get back. But you want to? I have no baconators though. Can't get baconators over there yet.
Oh, there is a Wendy's over here now, I think.
Really? Where?
I think there was one. I'm not too sure. I think we've got a couple over here. We'll have to source them out.
Yeah, we might.
You know,
we might have to start
you
that.
know, you know what's crazy to me? What's over there that I like would never think would be in England, but they're everywhere. KFC,
Chipotle? Oh,
KFC.
yeah.
It's like I have to drive over the river and through the woods to find a KFC, and I live in a major metropolitan area in America, and it's like 20 minutes for me to get to a KFC. Meanwhile, I could fall out of my flat over there when I'm in town, and I could stumble across a KFC everywhere. They're like on every street corner.
Yeah, the thing is, Lee Judges, to Lee Judges, Wendy's ain't a restaurant. That's all I'm saying.
Because it's not a wine bar. It's not there's no prawn sandwiches.
No, it's think of it like the Bunny Ranch.
You just take the towel.
Wendy's is to Lee what the Bunny Ranch is to you and I, Mike.
Yeah, well, that's okay. So I see we got some people in the chat. We got in fact we have Jaden Sancho, who's apparently not doing anything better tonight in the chat. So hi to Jaden, Prince Teddy. I mean, some famous people in the chat. Dublin Gooner, Danny the GFP, Pepetta, Roll Right, everybody in here. So again, just to kind of outlay what the show is going to be. This is more of a kind of get to know the show, get to know the host type of show. But we're going to be bringing you, it's going to be like the View. You guys know what the View is? No, it's not going to be like the View. Excuse me, it's not going to be.
It's definitely not going to be.
No,
like
that's what I meant to say. A lot of podcasts are like the evening news. They're like the View, which is like panel discussions and that sort of thing. And those are great. I mean, they're great and they're done by people who know their stuff. What we're trying to do is more of kind of a Tonight Show format. I guess maybe you'd call it like the Graham Norton show over there. Is that a reasonable reference? Kind of like an evening variety type of a show. He's just more talented than Graham Norton, though, obviously.
Man, I mean, Graham Norton is one thing, but boy, he gets some star-studded people on there.
Well,
let's hope that no pressure, Mike. No pressure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Boy, you put yourself in that atmosphere, and
got
now
me a little
all
bit
of a sudden,
Rolodex. We'll see what we can do. But we're going to give you great guest-centric shows from inside the football world.
Ian's mum on. That's who we want on.
Who?
Ian's mum.
Ian's mom. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I could arrange that actually.
Dublin Gooner said his Owen's mum called Wendy. I love that.
Yeah, right. And as soon as he put it up, I looked down. I saw Lee chuckle. He was like, eh. It was just real subtle.
I'd put the picture up, but I can't put the picture up.
That's all I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? So,
You're just saying that because you know I can't put any pictures up today. So anyway, so the shows are they're gonna have people like Owen's mom. There's gonna be fellow podcasters. We're gonna have some of our mates on. We're gonna have well-known journalists from the Arsenal world, from the football world, ex-players, and some of my favorite guests that we're gonna be having on are the commentators and pundits who we hear every week on our televisions. I mean, we've spoken to and will speak to again. People the likes of Peter Drury and Ian Dark and just folks that you're used to hearing on. They really kind of enhance the game, and I love talking to them about their experiences. So you'll get interviews like that because we want you to hear from them. I mean, you're not tuning into the show to hear from our fat, unshaven yank asses. So, and if you are, then the money's on the way. We'll also have some shows that are based around some fun games. This is where Tannor and I get a little creative. We got some in the pipeline, like the way too close picture game, the football phrases FA Cup, which I believe you guys have played in before. Podley Squares, the Gooner feud, Arsenal this or that. We're even working on a version of Who Wants to Be a Goonerillionaire. So there's lots of interesting, unique content.
We got to work on that title though, man. That doesn't really roll off the tongue.
It doesn't, but we'll
talk backstage.
Everything, including our bodies, is a work in progress. So yeah, and the next show, I'll be having a soup of the week. It will be New England clam chowder because there's only one soup in London, or in New England. Soup, why the hell not? So again, remember to hit that like button, thumbs up button, subscribe.
What is your favourite soup anyway? While we're asking, what is the favourite? If you got what is your favourite soup?
I mean, I've just said
Broccoli
it.
Stilton, broccoli Stilton, or oxtail or broccoli Stilton for me.
Oh, damn right. No, not Heinz tomato.
Nah, it's boring, mate. Boring.
Wait, what did you say? What is your favorite soup?
I'd say
Broccoli.
it's between broccoli Stilton
Broccoli
or
Stilton. It's
broccoli and
boring.
Stilton.
Is that it's like
Well,
Stilton? That's
I like
more.
That is
Yeah.
the only that's the only method in which I enjoy having broccoli.
Dublin
Is it
going to
broccoli?
mushroom. I'm a mushroom. I like mushroom as well. That's
Yeah.
my second favourite. I think mushroom.
Be
Wait,
honest, I like all of them. To be honest.
Stilton is like that's blue cheese, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
stout.
man.
Isn't it? It's what's that?
Interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
I like stuff that
I have-
I like stuff that's gone off, Tanner. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I work. That's why I work.
Tell you
That's why I
what,
work
mate,
with.
That's why you work with Lee.
That's why I work with Lee Judges. Do you know what I mean?
Smell the old cheese.
Oh,
that's a due date. We've lost him.
Oh, no,
Tanner-
he's
Tanner,
offended. He's that offended. He's gone.
Your soup, Tanner.
man, oh man. Whew, I couldn't tell you a favorite soup of mine. That's tough. I mean, I think I make a pretty good French onion soup, but
French onion.
yeah,
You want to be your partner then?
yeah, right. You know what? And I like to cook. So when I make soup, like I make my own soup. Like I not necessarily making it from scratch per se, but I like a good tomato bisque. I like chicken noodle. You know what? Tune in next week. I'll have a favorite soup for you.
There we go.
Cool.
And I'm a great chef. I don't cook. I cook soups that you heat up in the microwave. Whether you're heating the water up in the microwave, which I no longer do. I got me this nice kettle here that we
Who
use
does that, man?
to heat up the water. But New England clam chowder, man, all day long.
Have you ever had legal seafood? Have you ever had legal seafood up in Boston? Their clam chowder?
Absolutely, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best.
That's
But
like
New England clam chowder.
whenever I fly over. Go
It
ahead.
has potatoes. It has clams. It's cream based. It's delicious. That's the top soup. But there are some other soups. I could go for Dan's. I could go for.
When you're over here, though, don't you have the Heinz? Would you go into like the supermarket and get a Heinz soup or not? Like you Americans like
I'm not going to waste my time eating soup over in London. There's too many other good things that you don't really come across too often here. I know London's not known for its food, but I love it.
I'm going to tell you this is the most random thing I could say. When I'm over there, I always get an Airbnb that is on Queensland Road. It's basically right around the corner from the Armory at the stadium, and there's a co-op right on the corner. And for everybody that lives in England, I would think you guys know what a co-op is. They basically, like, you go down their frozen food aisle, they have like pizzas that you cook in the oven. It's tremendous. Their food is so good. And look, when I'm in London and I'm over there for 2 or 3 weeks, I can't be going out to dinner every night. I don't have it the way Lee Judges does. I'm not the celebrity that can afford to go out and have these 5-star Michelin meals every night. So I gotta shop at the co-op and get my frozen food that I can heat in the oven. But it's good.
I do that with like biscuits. I stock up on the Lucozade, and then it's Uber Eats all the time. But no soup. There's not gonna be soup. Lee's like, we're not gonna have to do this show for very long because Mike's gonna pass away in about 6 months.
So when you fly over, right, and you're landing, what's the first food you're going to go for?
Oh, the very first food I go straight down to Gerrard Street in Leicester Square, Soho, and get a Chinese. Always Chinatown for the first meal. It's the best. I know that's I know that's disappointing, but there's nothing like a proper Chinese in Chinatown. In Leicester Square. I hate that it's called Gerrard Street, but besides that.
I'm not as refined when it comes to that stuff. So I'll be honest with you. I'm going to shout out the Little Wonder Cafe that's right there by the stadium because that's where I stay. So I get off the plane, I get on the underground, hour and 10 minutes to Holloway Road, get off at the Holloway Road station and walk down. And chances are my key isn't ready for my flat, so I got to get something to eat. So the Little Wonder Cafe is right there. I go in the Little Wonder Cafe, and that's what I get. I'll get some breakfast, and it depends on just the mood that I'm in. But I love breakfast food. Like I love eggs, bacon, sausage. I love breakfast. I could eat breakfast. Man. Yeah, right. I could eat breakfast every day,
and
or all day. Like it's so good.
And the full English, the bacon is not the bacon we have over here. The
Right.
bacon is proper good bacon. I could go without the beans and the tomato, but
you know what? Listen, don't sleep on that, man. It's weird to us Americans, but I'll tell you what, the beans on that full English, man.
You don't need me having beans. Like the country.
Well, I mean, you don't need me having
country
beans
really
either,
doesn't
but
need me having beans. So I know it's not official, but when I put the beans aside in a full English breakfast, I'm doing a lot of people a lot of favors. So yeah,
chips with your breakfast.
Nah.
Chips.
Ash browns, mate. Ash browns.
Yeah,
Ash browns.
yeah.
Hash browns.
So we can talk about food all day long, but we
And now I'm hungry.
I know some of the people in the chat are
itching for us to talk about Arsenal. That's what
Well, exactly. That is kind of what the channel's about. So, by way of introducing us to those who may not know us, I mean, Dan, Lee, you guys have known us for a few years, but not everybody in the chat is. So, any questions that you guys have on kind of why the heck you decided to have us do a show, or who we are?
Are you regretting it yet?
I mean, I think it's important that people want to know who you are and know why you got into Arsenal, because a lot of the time people will kind of say, why Arsenal, even for people living even closer to the stadium than you guys do, all those miles away. So I think that's my kind of first question to both of you is why Arsenal, and then we can get into a lot more than that in terms of how we all meet and stuff like that, which I think could be great. So Mike, let's come to you first, man. Why Arsenal Football Club?
The Piccadilly line is responsible for that. Basically, when I was 15 years old, my family moved. I live in Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. So kind of like where Milton Keynes is to London, I live compared to Washington, D.C. And I was 15 years old, and my family came to me and said, you know what, your stepdad is about his office in D.C. is going to open up an office in London. It was actually supposed to be Cambridge first, which would have been a nightmare. But we're going to London. We're going to live there for a year. They're going to put us up in a great location, a great house, and you're going to an American high school there, so it won't be like this massive culture change unless you want it to be. And the first day I got there, I started just figuring out the tube, figuring out how it worked, where we go, and I was on the Piccadilly line. So about a week later, I'm like, I got to find a football team. I got to get into this. This is the culture. I want to assimilate. I want to become, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. When in London, go watch football. And so I got to pick a team. And I'm looking at the tube stations, and I see Tottenham Court Road. And so I do a little research, and I find out that that's not actually where the team is. Thank God. And then the next one I see is Arsenal. And so one Saturday afternoon, I take the tube up with a mate of mine. We go up to Arsenal. We get out. We basically just fall in behind where everyone's walking. I was probably like 15 yards from Lee, just following him and everyone else. End up just spilling onto the North Bank through the turnstiles, onto the terraces. And man, from that day on, that I found my club. I mean, and it was 1988. It was like August 1988. Not a bad time to become an Arsenal supporter. But I lived through that whole year on the North Bank, fell in love with the team. Of course, Anfield 89 happened, and it was I was done. We ended up staying 2 years, not one, but just an amazing experience. And I kept it in my heart. Came back to the States, went to university, got married, kind of fell off the football bandwagon overall. But once I started having kids and they started getting into soccer, as they call it over here, it was Arsenal back all over again. And now I can't imagine like not having found the club. It was fate. And I am literally Arsenal till I die, which based on my diet could be later this year.
Jesus Christ. No, that's amazing. Do you know what? I didn't know it was there. I was going to ask you what year, and I didn't know what year to guess. So that is a great time to start supporting Arsenal.
We moved over August 8th, 1988, and it was 8/8/88. Like, I think there was a royal baby born that day, too. Like, and it was,
I mean, there's got to be something else on that day. Yeah, right?
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Great stuff, Mike. Tannor, same question to you, man. Why Arsenal Football Club?
So it's nowhere near the story that Mike told. I was about 10 years old, and it was 1989, and I was always a front runner when I was a kid. I always followed the winners. But no, I'm kidding. There was a TV program over here in America. It was called the ABC Wide World of Sports, and they would show random sporting events, and I say random because it's America. They would show things like the Olympics and basically just world football. So you get the World Cup would be on there when the World Cup was being played, but everything was like on a tape delay. It was never broadcast live, and it was like the end of June of 1989, and they decided to show Arsenal Liverpool Anfield, the last match of the season. Of course, we all know how that ended. Somewhere, I always tell this story from my grandfather's perspective because honestly, I don't really remember it, but this is the way that my grandfather tells me the story. At first, and apparently, I was just scrolling through channels. It was on late at night too. It was on at like 8 o'clock in the evening. But anyway, 8 o'clock for us over here. But he says I found it, and the first thing that drew me into watching was just the accents of the announcers' voices. Like I knew what soccer was, but it was just the accents because it was the broadcast that had happened in England. And so I started watching, and eventually I figured out that, okay, Arsenal, the team in the yellow shirts, needed to win by 2 goals, and they would win what I supposedly said to him was like their Super Bowl, because I didn't know what else to call it at the time. And then, of course, Michael Thomas scored, who to this day is just that just resonates with me. And Michael Thomas will always be one of my favorite footballers. But he scored. The rest is history. He'll tell you that I just went ballistic when he scored that goal because I was watching a championship and I fell in love with what I was watching. But probably what nurtured it the most for me was my grandfather. And it's funny because he doesn't care at all. He'll ask me here and there, "Hey, how are Arsenal doing?" Just by the way, or I'll mention something to him. It'll be very random. But when I'm in town visiting him, if there's an Arsenal game, "Hey, Pap, you want to watch the Arsenal game?" "Nah, I'll take the dog for a walk." He doesn't care. It's just not his thing. But he nurtured it with me.
Grandfather.
What's that?
You need a new grandfather then.
Yeah, no.
No, I'm good.
No, I know. But he saw something there, and he kind of nurtured it. I mean, sports were always he and I's thing, and here was something that he thought he's really into this. I kind of want to push this, and he ended up writing a letter to the club, and this is 1989. There's no internet. There's no email. He hand wrote a letter to the club. What that letter said to this day, I don't know, something along the lines of my 10-year-old grandson saw a game of yours, blah, blah, blah. They ended up sending me a scarf, a jersey, and send a schedule. And how do we pay attention, blah, blah, blah. So we knew the 89-90 season, what the schedule was at that point. And then there was a thing we could get the scores, couldn't watch over here at that time. But it was my grandfather that really nurtured it in me. I don't have a real personal experience to pull from. But like I say, it's my grandfather, and that means a lot to me. That he was one that sort of pushed that on me, or pushed me in that direction, I should say. But just from watching me watch them, what I mean, and that's really it. But then. What the club did, because I got the scarf and the jersey, I got those things for my birthday. My birthday's in September, and I got them for my birthday that year. So I get a scarf, which is still at my mom and dad's house. Quite frankly, I don't have it here in Pittsburgh with me. The scarf is in a box with some other things at my parents' house. The jersey is gone at this point. I'm sure I wore that thing to death when I was a kid, and it's it got deep sixed at some point. But that's basically my story. It comes from my grandfather and 1989 at Anfield. That's it.
Over in America, then. So when did the football start being on all the time, so you could get into it every week like you do now? Then when did that happen? What season was that? And roughly what year was that it started happening?
Maybe the
mid. Did they advertise it or
mid to late 90s, Mike, with Fox?
I think that more the early 2000s. I mean,
the early 2000s for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Fox carried like a few games. It was,
Mhm.
and then there was Setanta Sports that came on
Oh,
the
yeah.
scene, and then ended up falling off the scene. But you could get the big games, the top four,
Yeah.
normally. So that's where if you were an Arsenal fan or United fan, you could actually watch most of your
Mhm.
games. Most of them were live, in the mornings on weekends, but. Very little coverage of any of the other tournaments, FA Cups, and that sort of thing.
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah. None of that.
And then probably maybe 10 years ago, 10 years ago, when NBC got the rights to show, I mean, ESPN had it at some point, then NBC got the rights and they really kind of blew it up. I mean,
Yeah.
they showed every single game. You could either stream it or watch it. Initially, it wasn't behind a paywall. Now, some of the games are behind a paywall on this horrid app called Peacock, which failed to show the first 20 minutes of the Arsenal game a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's better over here as far as watching games.
Oh,
I
my
think, than
goodness.
it is
Yeah.
over there.
I mean, I can watch over here. We can watch virtually any of what probably the five big leagues, the five big European leagues, if we subscribe to the various streaming services. But I mean, I've made the comment before on different shows. When it comes to the Premier League, I can watch every game. I can watch every single game.
And he does.
Now, I can't watch.
He has 10 televisions stacked on each other.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you would think I'm preparing myself for world domination, with all the TVs and everything. But no, seriously, it's $4.99 a month for this Peacock streaming
So you
service.
sit there watching different screens if it's like 4 games up.
I mean, if I had the TVs, yes, I could. If there are 4 games on in the same time slot, and I had the televisions to be able to do it,
That's
I
nice.
could.
That's
I
like
could
on
do that.
holiday stuff.
But then
That's like when you go.
that's
to York or
Boxing
something,
Day.
you know what I mean?
Yep. I mean, it's what we have over here is like college basketball. If anybody follows what March Madness is what it's called, and there are 4 at the first weekend, the first 2 days. There are 4 games on beginning at noon Eastern time, and they end around midnight. But there
It's
are 4
4 and then
games on.
4
It's
more and then 4
it is just
more and
wall
4
to wall college basketball, and on like Boxing Day, it's the last day of the season for the Premier League, where everybody plays at 3:00 in that 3:00 time slot. If you had the televisions to be able to do it, yeah, you could watch every game. I could watch every game at one time. So
Yeah,
That's
so
class,
I mean, it's been 10 or 15 years. I know a lot of Arsenal fans that I've met at the pub. Like my buddy Rio, who I met at the pub, was the first Arsenal fan that I met locally. That wasn't somebody I knew already. Like when I first went to the pub in DC, and he was telling me stories about how him and his brother, I think, used to get tapes shipped over from his father or from his parents or grandparents. So I don't remember the exact story, but his family is Ethiopian, and they used to ship tapes over to the States of Arsenal games so that they could watch them. So, it is rather amazing. I mean, you expect to hear the same answer, and if you hear this answer from an American about Arsenal, I embrace it and I love it, and I think it's as valid as any other answer. But you expect it always to be, oh yeah, I found out about them playing FIFA, or my friend introduced them to you a couple years ago, and I like the red. I mean, look, any reason you get into Arsenal, as far as I'm concerned, is a good one.
Yeah, likewise.
But
Yeah.
it's surprising how often you will hear a story from someone like Tannor where it goes back 32 years. Or like my friend Rio, who was watching VHS tapes that of games that were 3 weeks old that were mailed to him from Ethiopia to where he was growing up, and
It's unbelievable.
there's some long-standing stories here, and that one of the reasons that I think the way that Tannor and I like to interact with people on a little less analytical way is because I think we're fascinated with the whole background of like I love asking people how they became a Gooner, and like listening to the stories and finding out which ones are unique, and it's that personal aspect of the Gooner kind of. I mean, I cringe when I say this, but the Gooner lifestyle is a thing. Like you meet people that way. I mean, the number of people, Dan, that you've met in the last few years. I mean, how great is that? And it's because of one constant thing.
Yeah, it is unbelievable, and I've only been in this game for a couple of years, but it's unbelievable the growth of social media, but also people that come up to you that I still don't even know that go, "Wow, Dan Potts, great to meet you." I watched you on podcasts. I think, who the hell is this guy? So
Can
it's
I
great.
tell
It's
a
great.
quick story?
Yeah,
Can I
go
tell
for it,
it?
Tannor.
So 2019, and it was the first time Lee and I actually met face to face, and I can tell you that story too. Not that it's a funny story. There's nothing to it, but um, I got the crazy idea for this bearded gooner thing, and I'm standing in my flat before the Burnley game, and I'm like I should be the bearded gooner. Like I should just take my Twitter account and just be the bearded gooner. That's not just a persona. That's what I'm going to do because I always wanted to do this. So I get a kit and I put the bearded gooner on the back of it, and I start this whole thing, and I was back in it was December of 2019, and I go down to the Tollington and I'm wearing my bearded gooner shirt, and I just had people out of the blue just walking. Are you the bearded gooner? I'm like, I don't know what to do here. I'm like, I mean, people are like, hey, I'll buy you a beer. I'll buy you a beer. I'm like,
Go on then. Go for it.
yeah, I mean, fuck it, man. Let's go. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. But I was like, yeah, sure. You want to buy me a beer? Come on. Let's
Tannor
go.
now, so that was December 2019. So September 2020, you now have 7 kids from that trip. with 6 different women, basically, is what I heard.
At last count, it was 13, but there were a few that didn't want anything more to do with me after that because it was the worst night of their life in more ways than one.
So he
another story for another
You gotta
time.
you gotta love stories.
So he copyrights Bearded Gooner, and now you and me, Dan, have to actually pay him to have to have this facial hair. It's insane.
No, there's an inch level to it. There's like a length that you have to get to before I can
Proper beard, man.
Yeah,
Proper
before
beard.
I can actually get to the point where I can charge you, royalties or whatever. So
so let me ask you both before Lee comes in and asks you about how you got into podding and how you know us. Favorite Arsenal player and favorite Arsenal goal. I'll come to you first, Mike.
Favorite Arsenal player of all time?
Yeah.
David Rocastle. There's no question.
Okay.
I will always give that answer to that question. I was lucky enough to see him play in person, and I'm now lucky enough to have gotten to know his son, who is just a wonderful person. He'll be on this pod, I'm sure. Just the more you learn about him after the fact, the more he became my favorite player. But he was at a different level, and I'm just glad I got to see him play for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Favorite
fantastic.
goal. Favorite goal. Again, come back to me on the favorite goal. I got to.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's got to be Michael Thomas's goal. I don't even need any more time to think about it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Thomas, Anfield '89. I mean, there's no.
Go on, Lee. Sorry, go on, Lee.
No, just talking about that with we was playing that game, weren't we, with up close, and
Unbelievable.
Ryan was on, and it was his dad, David Rocastle, and he didn't get it.
We have this too close game, which if we can work out the kinks, we'll have it as a show one week on this channel. But basically, you start off with a player, and it's way too close up. Like this is what the picture looks like, and then it comes further out, and by the 4th picture, if you don't know who it is, it's because you don't know who the person is, and it's a competition. And one of them was David Rocastle, and we had Ryan Rocastle on with us in the competition. And I think who got it? You Lee? Or?
No, Dan got it. I think Dan got it.
Yeah, it was me. Yeah, but
Dan
honestly,
got it. Second. It was the one with
Ryan and me had no clue.
I just remember shouting out Rocky, thinking, "Oh, I won't have got that. Ryan's on with us," and he was sitting there like still looking at the screen lights. Yes, that's your father, Ryan. And he had no idea.
He had to go home in disgrace, you know what I mean? So we set him to
he went home in disgrace.
Great kid, I must admit. I've never met him until that time. Absolutely lovely. Really nice.
We're working on getting him up to. He'll be at the Emirates for one or more of the games that we're all going to be. I mean, those games. I know so many different people that are coming in from Wales, from Margate, we got Rocky coming in. So many. I mean, not Rocky. Ryan coming in, but I mean that Villa game is going to be like my head's going to be on a swivel with all the people that I know virtually, but don't get to spend that much time with in person.
That's what it's all about. It'll be brilliant.
And then there's Lee, who I've met 94 times in 4 different countries.
I'm looking forward to it. They really get Friday night under the lights at the Emirates, Aston Villa. That'd be good. It'd be good to meet up with everybody and have a chat and and see everybody again. I'm looking forward to that game.
Yeah, 100%. Tannor, let's come to you. So, favourite Arsenal player of all time and favourite goal, I imagine, is probably Michael Thomas, like Mike's.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the goal is the Michael Thomas goal. I mean, let's face it, that's the reason I'm sitting here right now.
100%.
You know, favorite player. I mean, it's got to be the King, right? I mean, it's Thierry Henry, because that was really when I could start watching consistently every week, almost every game. Was, you know, in that 2004, 2005 era, the Invincibles, and just watching what he could do was nothing short of brilliant. And that, I mean, I could even say two of my other favorite goals are obviously the iconic celebration against Tottenham that Aubameyang just mimicked on Sunday, yeah. But also the goal in the FA Cup against Leeds when his return.
I was going to say that one.
Yeah.
Underrated.
And I'll be honest, that goal is one of my favorites. It's in my top 5 all-time Arsenal goals. Not necessarily because of what he did, but because of the commentary. Was that Peter Drury?
I believe so, yeah.
It was Peter Drury on the call where he's cast in bronze but capable of producing truly golden moments. And that's not like my head just tingled when I said that. Like
that's why I'm looking forward to. I mean, we'll see if Peter will be joining us, but he's been on our podcast before, and just talking to him about some of those calls and what was going through his mind. I mean, we didn't have Peter Drury on commentary for the Derby on Sunday here in the States, but I did see on Twitter somebody released the goals that we scored with his commentary.
Oh,
and I'm telling
tremendous.
You. When they tried to put like American announcers, and there are some good ones, there are a handful of good American announcers for football, but when they tried to jam American announcers down our throat for football over here, it did not work. And that's because there's nothing like 50 to 60 years of football experience and lifestyle in a person to be able to encapsulate what's happening in that moment. And Drury and Ian Dark and
Derek
Ray and all those guys are just the best at it, and they're some of the favorite people that we talk to on the podcast. So stay tuned to future episodes to hear from
100%
top folks like that. And you know, if we had booked it ahead of time, we would have been so lucky to be able to have like Peter talking about his calls of the Derby from 2 days ago on the show that week. But that's what we're going to be trying to do with this podcast. So.
Class. Can I just say, Mike, Loki 73 has come up with my favourite in the chat. Bergkamp versus Newcastle for me was the best ever Arsenal goal I've ever seen. It was just ridiculous. Never seen it replicated again by anybody. Yeah. Never seen anyone come close to it. So that to me says it was a pretty special goal. So best player to ever wear the shirt, in my opinion. For me, Bergkamp better than Henry. Favourite player was Ian Wright, but for me, Dennis Bergkamp's the best that's ever played for us. So I will go with Bergkamp versus Newcastle and agree with Loki there. Lee, sorry, I know you wanted to come in and ask the lads some questions. Go on, mate.
No, I was just saying, like, obviously,
our favorite player, Charlie Nicholas. We know that, right?
Charlie Nicholas, Patrick Vieira, and the best goal I think I've ever seen. It's the only goal that's ever silenced a ground that I've ever been at was Giroud's. It's the only game that I've ever seen.
You're talking about the scorpion kick?
Yeah, it's the only time I've ever seen a crowd just.
I mean, it wasn't just the goal; it was the lead up to the goal. I mean, everything about that was unbelievable.
Yeah. I've never experienced a crowd going mad and then watching us then all stop and watch the screen and be stunned into silence.
Because everyone was hungover too. It was New Year's Day, I think. So I mean, that probably had
it was unbelievable.
The best part about that was that Sanchez couldn't cross the ball. If Sanchez could have crossed the ball better, that never would have happened.
One of the other best goals going back into the younger days it was Liam Brady's goal against Spurs. That has to go down as a wonder goal as well. Like, you know, Charlie Nicholas's goal against Tottenham, when he danced around them all, you know, when atmospheres are atmospheres. But that's just going to go on to
off the kickoff.
The
Arsenal class, that was.
Yeah. The Arsenal.
I must say, Henry against Man United, where he flicked it over Barthez, that was outstanding.
I'll tell you one other. Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Tannor. But I got to talk about that Henry Barthez goal because Are you going on to that?
No, I was just real quick. One other Henry goal that I will seriously like. I'll watch. I'll just put it on loop on YouTube and just watch it over and over again. Is against Liverpool.
Yes, mate.
The way he
he's one at
undressed
Spurs is good
everyone.
as well.
Yeah,
Bernabeu, Real Madrid, that was a class one as well. But
Yep.
he's got 5 or 6 in Henry. The back heel against Charlton, absolutely superb. So yeah, he's got so many.
Yeah.
Go on, Mike. Sorry, mate.
No, that Henry goal. I was watching that goal about 7-8 years ago, and literally the next time my son had a game, and when I'm talking about my son's team, I'm calling it soccer because that's what it's called here. You show up to like a 10-year-old. I mean, he was 10 at the time. You show up to a 10-year-old's thing and start talking about this being football. People just look at you like you're some sort of ass. So
they don't have helmets and shoulder pads in this sport. Why are you calling it football?
But anyway, like 3 days after I had just like watched a compilation video of that, he gets the ball in his game with his back to the goal about like 25, 30 yards from goal, takes one touch up into the air and then like side swipes. I've uploaded this to YouTube before. I'll share it with you. And it hits the post. Otherwise, that was good. It was like Thierry Henry from the opposite side. It was so, I mean,
wow.
Brilliant. It just like loops in and hits the post, which would have been great if he was playing the crossbar challenge. But no, I mean, that was the closest I've ever seen to the Henry goal, and it came from my 10-year-old, who's now 18 and an absolute stud. But so yeah, Lee,
of course.
Sorry to, I mean, came from my loin.
Obviously, it was a North London derby this week. Like, what's it like, the North London derby out there in America? Like, there's the reason that I don't like Spurs is because of their fans, and they're all here around me, and I get comments like my mate phones me up, and credit to him that he did phone me up, and he said, "Oh yeah, well, we're crap. I'm not interested. I watched the golf." You know what I mean? Like just typical Spurs. And of course you did. You lying. You know what I mean? Like you were celebrating winning the league.
Is he going to play golf when the reverse fixture, Lee? Is he or?
Oh, exactly. And I don't believe he was watching or playing golf when they beat Manchester City 1-0. It's just they just irritate me. They just get on my nerves. I don't like them.
If he was watching the Ryder Cup and skipped that for the game, he still had a miserable day.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but.
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, so but I don't care no more. I don't go no more. But after the 3 games when they was top of the league, do you know what I mean? Giving it large, saying like, when you have your match of the day, your goal of the month, you're going to have to put the women's one on, like, you know what I mean? Well, funny enough, we're above them now on goals scored, you prat. You know what I mean? But of course they're not interested no more. And that's what really irritates me about Spurs. If they'd have won, they'd be giving it large. When you beat them, I'm not interested. Levy's this and Levy's that, like, But what is it like over there? Are they as the American Tottenham fans are annoying as the real ones over here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are they like?
I don't know if there's a way to compare, but they're worse because most of them don't come with the decades of disappointment. They only come with the 5 years of, like basically from the moment Clint Dempsey went and played for them, or was it Clint Dempsey?
Yeah.
Or the other guy?
Yeah. No, it was Dempsey.
A lot of Americans became Spurs fans when that happened. They stuck around because the team started making top 4s and the Champions League final, which that day almost killed me. So, they don't have the perspective and the shame that a Tottenham fan should have. And they think that we should because of the fact that, we've been on the downside for the last few years. So in some ways it can be worse. I mean, our pub just outside of DC, unfortunately, it is not just an Arsenal pub. There's 2 other supporters clubs from Premier League teams that show up there. One is Chelsea and the other is Spurs. And then there's Roma for whatever reason, but they're in a different part of the pub. And the Spurs fans all go into that corner of the pub and they stay there and they don't tip the bartender and they're just so obnoxious. And during this game, Arsenal fans were having it large at them. I mean, after the first goal, after the second goal, there's some chanting going on. There's a lot of chanting going on, and you can just see on their faces they couldn't take the banter. Like, it wasn't vicious stuff. No one was calling their mothers, certain things, and it's just, I don't know. I don't like them. We had a truce because we were doing a charity event for Gooners versus Cancer this week at the pub. And they were nice enough to donate, and I donated to something they were doing. So we had like this little, truce for the game, but they are as annoying and obnoxious, and especially on social media, because, like you said, Lee, they'll give it to you for anything that they can, and then they'll just completely, nothing the opposite way affects them at all.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Oh, but you guys never got to a Champions League final. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd just say there's not a ton of like 30, 40, 50-year long Tottenham fans in this area.
No.
They're mostly 5 to 10, and that does make it a little more annoying.
So I have a kind of a good story about this. It's heartwarming and actually heartbreaking at the same time. But the pub in Pittsburgh where everybody goes. So the only clubs that really have like their own spot in Pittsburgh are Liverpool and, ironically enough, Everton. They have their own spots, but everyone else flocks to this one spot in Pittsburgh called Piper's Pub. So United, Chelsea, City, us, Spurs, whomever, that we all congregate in this one spot. But it became a bit of a Spurs takeover. There was a guy that would go into the bar, and he was there every day, and I'm not just for football, but he was just in there every day. And he was actually from North London and a Spurs supporter. And at least in Pittsburgh anyway, he was the guy that really sort of nurtured this spirit of going out to the pub, watching the game. And that's why this really kind of by default became a Spurs bar. And sadly enough, he ended up passing away. I was actually in London when he passed away, and I wasn't able to get to his ceremony or anything back here in Pittsburgh. But the Spurs supporters here in Pittsburgh they're not really that bad, to be honest with you. And I think it is because they don't have the history that the supporters over there have. They're new money. It's what I call city supporters over here in America. You're new money. You fell into an oil cash cow, and you're just go celebrate. Sure, that's fine. It's over here it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same for Spurs, but I would say there's a good reason why, at least in Pittsburgh anyway, because that's really all I can speak to, is there is a large contingent of Spurs supporters here, and it stems from people going into this pub, watching games on a Saturday or a Sunday. But here's this old guy sitting over here, friendliest guy you'd ever want to meet. First time I ever met him, had an Arsenal kit on, and he pulled me aside and we struck up a conversation. He wasn't mean to me. He was as supportive and everything as anyone could have possibly been for the rivalry that exists between these two clubs. He just loved the fact that there was an American, representing an English club. He loved it. Just absolutely loved it. Of course, I hate the shirt, but I love seeing that somebody is, that somebody's wearing it. So it's not as bad. It's not as bad here.
So you get any fights? I mean, you guys were at the game, obviously. Anyone try to have a piece of you, or
you never get I don't know what goes on.
Well, Lee, you have security around you all the time, but
it's just when you go away to Tottenham, that's when there's trouble.
You got to walk through the gauntlet, right?
Yeah, always trouble when you go away from home. Like so much so that the last time we went was at Wembley, and it was horrendous getting home. It was like, do you remember that film, The Warriors? When they got the way back, like, it was like that, you know what I mean? Like,
Warriors come out.
Yeah. And like we got onto this, it was just mayhem all the way there. On the way, we managed to get back to Liverpool Street, and as we're walking onto the train, these 4 Tottenham supporters turn around and go, get the next train. This is our train. You ain't getting on it. You know what I mean? like, you know, you're Arsenal, you ain't getting on this. It's a Tottenham train, we're getting on it. Like you ain't getting on it. And I said, leave it out, lads. You know what I mean? Like, it's been a long day. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't getting on it. Well, one of my mates, as you well know, will be named nameless. He's a bit of a nutter. Come over and said, "What's going on?" I said, "Oh, they won't let us on their train." Like, you know what I mean? It all kicked off on the train station. Like, you know what I mean? So, you know, anyway, put it mildly, we got on the train, but you know, and I just sat there.
Can you
and,
give the initials of who it was?
TV is his name. Is his the
TF.
no. He got involved.
Oh yeah, no, I know who you mean. Sorry,
He got involved as well. We all did, because, like, you know, it was you know, in the end I was ended up breaking it up, like, you know, train delayed. Police coming on board the train, like, and as I get on the train, there's only one of my top customers in my dry cleaners, like, sitting on the train. Like, I've gone, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Payne, for all this trouble." Like, you know, the train's been delayed. You know what I mean? Like, the train, you know, I go, "Oh no," like, you know what I mean? So,
I have a question for you, Lee. Would you swap the Invincibles for a Champions League? Because SH is getting very disappointed that you never read his comments. So I'm going to read it to you. Quick yes or no answer, and then I want to bring up another question. We got a few minutes left.
No, I've never changed the Invincibles. Never.
Not for a Champions League title. All right.
No, listen, the Champions League, anybody can win it. You know,
Somebody wins it every year, right?
Yeah, and I think with the Champions League, it's a cup competition. You need that little bit of luck, you know. And I just think with you need a little bit of luck to go through the league unbeaten. But for me, it's a unique thing, and that in 2004, I never thought I'd ever see that, and to experience that, I would never take that away from us now. So
nice one. All right, well, thank you, SH, and. Speaking of derbies, I have yet to be able to go to a derby at Spurs. I don't know if that's something I want to do or don't want to do. I would like to experience.
Back to that, if you actually go into the game and we've not been to the new stadium, but going to the old White Hart Lane, it is the best atmosphere, the best games to ever be experienced if you win. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you draw, it's great. Obviously, it's a tough place when you lose. But when you win, there's no better place. But getting in and out of there is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
No,
you know,
I've heard the stories. I've seen. I mean, you guys in the chat room telling us about the experience. But I have been at one, well, recent, like at the Emirates, in addition to the ones back at Highbury way back when. But I have been to a derby, 2016. I think we drew 1-1 against Spurs. There's a game that Bellerin got hurt in. I think Iwobi was pretty crap in that game. And Kane, of course, got this questionable penalty. And the atmosphere that day was kind of shite, if you will. I mean, I was shocked. I took my son over, like, after his 13th birthday. I took him over for a derby, and we were expecting, like, the place to be off the charts. And it just was it was a 12:30 game on a Saturday, which didn't help. But, like, I was so glad to see and hear that, you know, this year's derby was completely different. I mean, and that's my question for you guys. I mean, we've heard about the crowd and the support in the last few games, actually, but I mean,
Sunday was
one of the louder stadiums?
Nuts.
I mean, you've got the 4-2 derby a few years ago that I heard was pretty great, but I mean, that had
the
to
5-2 and the 5-2 was unreal as well. The first one.
I think this one was better.
Was
Dan, do you think this one was better
on Sunday? On Sunday,
yeah,
as good, I'd say. Listen, after the 5-2, the 4-2, and Sunday, I don't know. They're all brilliant, aren't they? It's hard to compare, but I think because the fact of Tottenham being so far ahead of us at the time, and then going 2-0 up to win 5-2, I think that's the one, and still probably is my favourite one. The 4-2, the first one.
So, yeah,
was that the one that Adebayor got?
Not the one where Adebayor got sent off, and then it was easy for us to smash them. The one where we went 2-0 down, and then Van Persie got the 2-2 equaliser, and then Walcott got the double to make it 5-2. That was my favourite one, and still remains to be my favourite one. This was great. Don't get me wrong on Sunday, but I just feel like it was something more special back then. And at the time, Harry Redknapp, I think they were They're about 8 points clear, weren't they, at one stage? I think it got to 13 points at one stage as well.
Yeah, that
It was
was one of the
unbelievable.
years where they had all the points in the gap, and we
And they
knocked them
just
down.
completely lost it. Yeah, so that for me was unreal, 100%. There's a couple more questions, Mike. I don't know if you want to take them in the chat.
Sure.
Or if you want me to do it, it's up to you, buddy.
Yeah, I haven't been looking, so if you want to bring up the questions and
Yeah,
let me
sure.
see here.
RYN Lee. This is for Lee. We'll all have a go at it. It's a yes or no answer. Top 4, yes or no, Lee Judges this season.
No.
Mike,
No, but close.
Nah.
Tanner,
But I'm with Mike. I think we'll be there at the end. It just, I think things just don't fall our way. But no, I don't think this year.
yeah, no, I don't think. I think. Listen,
Was he
I think the
asking
top
this year,
4.
or was he asking just ever again?
Well, I guess he means this year, but I must admit, I think that the top 4. I think I said it last night with you, Mike, with Tom, that I think that Liverpool win the league. And when I said that, everybody laughed and said no chance. But I think they will. They've got their team back. They're looking good. They've absolutely battered Porto tonight, 5-1, by the way, and they're looking great. And for me, Chelsea and City are going to come very close. And Manchester United, with Ollie in or Ollie out, are going to be in the top 4. So I think that's kind of cemented for me. So that's kind of.
I agree with that
my
100%. I mean, when you look at Liverpool now, go back to last year, and the only thing different between the year that 2 years ago when they won the league to last year to now is last year. I mean, they were a hospital ward, for crying out loud. That's it. I mean, they were one of the best teams 2 years ago that the league had ever seen. What's different now? Right? They're still one of the best. They're still one of the best teams.
I agree, and I mean, obviously they didn't have a great game against Brentford at the weekend, and people will say that, and of course they drew to Chelsea, which is, trust me, no mean feat. They're a great side, and a lot of people think they're going to win the league this season. I think it's going to be one of the closest we've seen in a long time. I really do. I don't think one's going to fly away with it. I think it's going to be between those 3 teams. I think Manchester United might just fall short in 4th, but the way I see it is those 3 are really fighting for it. Yeah, the other one was. It's more of a question for us, as in a quiz question, which is from Robert Ram Mullin, which is, guys, what's the highest score for Arsenal ever? No cheating. I don't know. Does anyone know that?
No, I don't know.
It's either 12 or 13. And I don't know if he's including like preseason games or exhibitions, but I'm going to go with 12 because that's
12 rings a bell. 10 or 12. 12. I think 12.
Loki's put 12-0 versus Loughborough. Is that right? Anybody know? I wouldn't actually know.
12, I don't know. It could be 12-0 then, like, you know what I mean?
Lee,
so 12 rings a bell.
Lee, you were at that game, right?
No, I missed that. I was at lunching at at the Savoy that day, like,
Honestly,
I like that.
That Savoy is really. If you have accumulated some financial well-doings, go to the Savoy and get the beef Wellington. You will literally never have a better meal.
Listen, the Savoy is the best. It's the best meal.
There we go. If you never know you never been there, then there you go. You've been told by our. I'm going to make this the last question because it's a really good one, and then I think we can wrap up, Mike. Thoughts on Xhaka's performance, and how do you see the midfield lining up now that he's out for 6 to 8 weeks?
Has that been confirmed? Is it? Has that been confirmed?
Yeah, today, 6 to 8 weeks he's out, been confirmed today. So hopefully he can come back quick. I mean, listen, I'm not a fan. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan, but I don't want any one of our players to be out injured for long periods of time, right? So obviously we need a squad to do well in this league and in the competitions for the cups. But how do we see it lining up, Mike? I'll let you go first on this one, man.
I feel kind of bad because I was being a little cheeky with a buddy of mine at the pub on Sunday and saying, the best case scenario is we're up by 3 or 4 goals in the 88th minute. Xhaka gets a red card. Like, it's not going to hurt us in the game, but then we can go another 3 games, where he's not available. I didn't want him to get hurt. I wasn't asking for like an injury. I felt bad when he went down because I'm like, oh geez, I've done this to him. I know he's your boy, Lee, and that you love him and like hanging out with him. But so I don't want to offend you. But look, I mean, he does tend to play well when he comes back from one of his jackassery situations and suspensions. Like he'll play well for a while, and then he'll get too comfortable, and then it happens all over again. So, in hindsight, I obviously I didn't like seeing him in the starting 11, but it wasn't the end of the world, and he played fantastically until he got hurt. You got to say that. But I think it's pretty clear what needs to be done for the next 6 to 8 weeks. Most of which we have one game a week, and that's going to be Lakanga and Partey, and knock on wood that they still stay healthy. I mean, you might switch it up a little bit for the you're going to switch it up for the Leeds game, the League Cup game, but besides that, Lakanga's being handed his opportunity and on a silver platter, and I back him to take it.
I must admit, I think personally, Partey and Lokonga, I think that's the midfield I'd like to see, and a lot of people would like to see. If, of course, it doesn't get to that stage and we go with this 4-3-3 or 4-1-2-3, whatever you want to call it, then obviously Smith Rowe and Ødegaard will play just ahead of Thomas Partey. But I think that if we're going to go 4-2-3-1, it has to be Partey and Lokonga. I'll let you go next.
Dan, if you do that with the 4-3-3, that gives a pathway back to getting Pepe back on the pitch without having to come at Saka's expense.
Listen, what I'll say about Granit Xhaka is that I thought, it was a big decision for Arteta. I think if it had gone wrong, I think he'd have lost a lot of faith in the Arsenal fans. Xhaka didn't let him down, and the fact is that our best performance of the season was with him in that team. So I look at that, and he contributed magnificently till he got injured. I have to say that, So
that second goal started with him. And he saved Ramsdale's ass too.
I didn't think that he should have played, but when I look at it with Granit Xhaka, I do believe that we need an upgrade in there, and that's why I've always said about Basuma and all that, because just the mobility. But what I do like about him is that he's a player you don't mess with. On a football field, I see a couple of times people don't take liberties with him. They might get into him and all that, but they don't start having a go at him and chirping at him, do you know what I mean? And trying to intimidate him because they know they can't. So I like that.
But you can also get him. You can also get him to bite though sometimes, can't you? Like he's prone to, as we've seen before, he's prone to put a hand around.
But of course, you know what I mean. But look, listen, not everybody's. Built like that, Pepe's done it. Other people have done it. Other players in the past have done it. Bergkamp, by the way, let us down on a few occasions, but that because he was so good, it was all forgiven. Ian Wright did. So I've got no problem with that every now and then. But what I'm saying is that he done really well. But ultimately now we've got a system, I think, with the two holding midfield players that releases the front three to do what they did and give them that little bit more flexibility and a bit more license to attack and not worry about their defensive duties so much. So for me, it's the right way to go. But Lokonga has a chance now to cement his place, and hopefully he does.
He's not doing much wrong, is he, Lokonga? I don't look at his performances and think, I can't wait for Xhaka to come back. Yeah, it is. That's what it is now. And
it's more, Xhaka gives you that experience. And on the day, he didn't let us down. I don't think he done it. I think he made one bad pass in the whole game.
It smacked off of.
No one had a bad game. No one had a bad game.
I think he hit Dele Alli right in the face with the bad pass.
Yeah, so for
no, it was Højbjerg. It was Højbjerg.
Really bad
so
pass.
Even if it was a bad pass, it might, hopefully it hurt him, So
hopefully it hurt him a lot.
But I think that at the end of the day, look, Granit Xhaka is one of those players. You either love him or hate him. If you don't have a good game, he's going to be criticised. And I think it's a little bit unfair to a certain degree. I know he's put himself in that position, but when he plays well, people go, oh, well, that's what you expect. When he has a bad game, oh, look at Granit Xhaka, And I just think that...
You don't do that with Pepe, Lee, no. All right, cool.
No, I think Pepe...
I like to wind up, Lee. That's
more talent than Granit Xhaka. I think, I've said it all along. With the talent that he has, he should be doing more, and he hasn't done it. He's had enough chances now, and for me, that he slows down the play, and it was proved yesterday. But look, listen, I think with Pepe, when he comes back in, he'll get his chance again. He's got to make it happen. But Granit Xhaka come in yesterday. I saw him on Sunday, and it was a do or die game for him and Arteta.
Yeah.
and he done it. He got through it. So that's
Arteta
what now.
Arteta put his trust in him, and he repaid it for one
yeah,
game.
exactly.
And my issue with Xhaka and Tannor, I know we got to get your answer on this and then wrap up. But my issue with Xhaka has never been about his play on the pitch. I mean, you can debate that all day long, and you can find statistics and examples that support both sides of the key on that. Mine is purely a personal thing. I mean, I will support him every time he puts on the shirt and doesn't rip it off. I will support him all the way. I'll cheer him. I'll do whatever. But I don't like the guy. He's one of the only Arsenal players.
That's fair enough.
Only one of the Arsenal players who's actually at Arsenal. I mean, you could say that about Sammy Nasri, but when he played for us, I thought I enjoyed it. Van Persie, all these guys that have left the club, Adebayor, I started not liking them after they left the club. This is one of the only guys I've really truly not liked.
I'm the same. I can't stand the guy. I despise him.
But who am I? Who am I? Yeah, apparently his teammates like him, his coaches like him, and frankly, I think that's a little more important than than 100%. Big Magic Mike over in Virginia. What he thinks about him. So, look, I know my place in the world. I would just rather see other people play than him. I'd rather see him leave the club and kind of rejuvenate who our leaders are in the club. But if they're going to put faith in him, then I'll cheer for him to do well. I'm sorry to see him get hurt, and let's just hope that's not the hill that Arteta dies on, because then if we're succeeding with or without him, then it won't be an issue. So, Tannor, you're
boy, I'm glad you brought me in last on this, because it's funny. I guess I'll kind of piggyback off what Mike just said. I don't hate him the way that everybody does, and I think when you look at the reason that everybody dislikes him, and it's because of the incident with Crystal Palace and Unai Emery and all that.
Not just that, though. Not just that.
I mean, to me, the context has to go into that as well, and I'm not going to go down that road. As far as Sunday goes, was I disappointed to see him in the starting 11? 100%. And I was disappointed to see him in the starting 11, not because of his ability on the pitch or lack thereof to a lot of people, but it spits in the face of everything that we've been told now in terms of youth movement. We've won 3 games on the trot without him, kept 3 clean sheets, and all of a sudden the guy that gets a red card for a 2-footed spikes up challenge walks straight back into the team. What does that say to someone like a Sambi Lokonga, who hasn't put a foot wrong all season, right? And so that's why I was disappointed. Yeah. And as far as his play on the pitch is concerned, three passes that really started the break on all 3 goals. His pass to Odegaard on the first goal, just that little flick to Odegaard to start the break on the first goal was fantastic. I mean, it's up there with the Aubameyang touch to ESR on Aubameyang's goal. But I thought he was clumsy. Honest to God, I thought he was clumsy. I thought the challenge on Højbjerg with the Ramsdale pass, he easily could have gotten a foul there. Now he didn't, and that's referee's discretion. And there's a situation.
It was a foul, wasn't it?
I personally, I think so. And we look back on it, and you know what we're saying right now. That last year that goes against us. Last year that goes against us. That's
it's great. It was hilarious that it wasn't given. But
right, and we'll take that. We'll take that every day, right? It's like finally turnabout is fair play. I just the game ran past him on Sunday. I really look at him defensively and think the game just ran past him on Sunday. We have, in my opinion, better players, more, maybe not better, but players more suited to the league and the speed and the pace of what's happening around them. And that's Sambi Lokonga. And I'll be honest, it's Ainsley Maitland-Niles too. I think Maitland-Niles is one of the most athletic players in this side, and that's the Xhaka downfall, is his lack of athleticism. To me, the reason that Arteta values him so much, and it's a bit ironic given the mistakes he makes, is his footballing IQ. And I've been saying for 2 years now, if you're going to play this system with Arteta, you have to be smart. That's why I think Pepe doesn't work. Pepe's instinctive. Lee and Dan, I was with you guys a couple of weeks ago, and I said about Aubameyang, I don't think it was working with him. He's instinctive. And Xhaka isn't that. He's more... It's up here for him, that's the way that he plays the game, more intuitively, if you will. But I am not. The thing is it's let's face it, the result dictates the narrative, right? We won, so Xhaka wasn't poor. Xhaka was great, however you want to put it. Two things can exist at the same time. I think his passing was brilliant overall on Sunday. Other aspects of his game I thought were poor. It's his defense, it's his tackling. There was a point we were down in our own end, and I think it was Ndombele had the ball, and Xhaka went in for a challenge. Ndombele may as well have just stood there and watched him slide by, and then he ran right around him. And it's like he's not even close to the ball there. I'm less happy with Xhaka's performance from Sunday. But again, there are bright spots, and I think that's look. If there's anything I'll bring to the show, to the channel in terms of analytics, I think I have an objective view. I'll tell you when I think someone had a poor game. I'll tell you when I think someone had a great game. And in the case of Granit Xhaka, if there were good aspects and bad, I think I'll tell you both. So that's the long diatribe answer on what I thought of Granit Xhaka from Sunday.
Sweet. Well, Dan, Lee, Tanner, that's our first show, man. It's a work in progress, but you're gonna want to stick around. Next week we're gonna have a great guest on. We'll let you know a little closer to the time who it's going to be. We're every 2 weeks on Tuesday, with the exception of next week. We're doing 2 consecutive weeks because the following Tuesday I'm on my way over to. Actually, I'll be in London. I'll be at the England-Hungary game at Wembley that night, cheering on my 3 Lions. That's a whole other explanation for why I care about England's football team. So yeah, we're going to go next week on the 5th, and then every 2 weeks after that, and we'll be having a lot of fun. So hope you stay tuned. We got 92 people watching right now. Appreciate it. Please give your thumbs up in the chat and YouTube, and subscribe to Lee Judges TV. Follow Tanner at The Bearded Gooner, and at what's the show on BG Media?
BG Media AFC on Twitter. If you guys want to subscribe to my channel for pre-game shows, post-game shows, obviously Same Old Arsenal USA is still on my channel as well. Just go up to your YouTube search bar, type in Bearded Gooner Media, and we will come up right there. We are 8 away from 1,000 subscribers. Would be thrilled to hit that mark here soon. So
along the same lines, Tanner's got his Same Old AFC USA podcast. We've got the Gooners podcast. Always a good time. Come and catch Owen and Mike and Jared and Andy and some guests over there. Follow at the Gooners Pod. We are about 7,812 away from 10,000 subs. So if you can please help us out a little bit, that would be great. And of course, follow this show at Arsenal Soup on Twitter. And the one last thing I want to mention. Gooners versus Cancer is a passion project of mine. It's a fundraiser for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. The Arsenal community, the podcast community, the fans, the supporters of the club have just come together in a wonderful way, and we've been doing an auction all year or all summer for some amazing Arsenal prizes. And you're going to want to go to goonersvcancer.com and follow Gooners v Cancer on Instagram and on Twitter. Because there's about 3 weeks left in the Gooner raffle. You make a donation, and you help out with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and you can win some really, really cool Arsenal stuff. And I'm not talking about, signed green and white jerseys from Lee Judges. Not talking about the opportunity to spend 20 minutes with Dan Potts. I'm talking about, beers with Terry Groves.
The best 20 minutes of your life, by the way.
Yeah. Right. And you'll get some amazing prizes, and you'll be doing something good to help to try to cure blood cancer. So goonersvcancers.com. Gents, it's been great. Thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity, and we're looking forward to growing this show in interesting and creative ways. So we'll see you next week. Tanner, Lee?
Yes, you will.
Come on, you Gooners.
Come on, you Gunners.